The voice in my baby monitor isn't human. The voice said Lily's name. It came through the baby monitor like a thing that did not belong in a house. Not a radio, not a neighbor on a walkie-talkie, not anything from a person. It was a dry, metallic whisper that folded over itself. Lily, it said, soft but clear. Come see. Emma's hand was on the nursery door when the voice spoke. Her heart jumped so fast she thought it would hurt. She pushed the door open and ran. The mobile over the crib turned slowly like it always did. The nightlight painted the room in the color of butter. Lily lay on her back staring at the corner of the room, eyes wide and bright. She was smiling like she saw something funny. Emma scooped her up without thinking. The baby's skin smelled like warm milk and lotion. Lily giggled and pointed with her tiny finger toward the dark corner behind the rocking chair. Emma looked, and for one breath she thought she saw a shadow move against the wall that did not match the chair or the curtains. It was like someone had stood close to the plaster and left the shape of themselves there for a second, then stepped away. Emma set Lily down and reached for the monitor. Its plastic was cold under her fingers. The power light was off. She touched the button. Nothing. The speaker should not have been able to talk. The monitor had been unplugged for hours, the battery dead. But the voice came again, and this time it sounded like it was breathing right behind Emma's ear. Don't take her, it said. She belongs to me. She spun, clutching Lily to her chest. The baby's feet kicked and the blanket slipped a little. Emma's mouth was dry. She wanted to scream, to call Mark, to run out into the street. Instead she stood very still and waited for sound to make sense. There was the ordinary hum of the house. The refrigerator clicked, the heater ticked. Those sounds should have been comforting, but the voice under them made everything thin. A knock came at the front door. Not a loud, startling knock, 3 quiet, even knocks, like someone polite asking to be let in. The voice on the monitor giggled once, low and cold, and the knock matched the rhythm. Emma crossed the room and peered through the peephole. The porch light showed only the empty steps and the swing moving slightly in a night breeze. There was nothing there. She locked the door and went back to the nursery. She pressed her palm to the monitor. It was dead. Cold plastic. No lights. And yet she could still hear, far away and inside her head, the whisper. She knows the way, it said. At the same instant Lily raised her small hand and pointed down the hallway, her finger steady and sure, like a compass needle pointing north. Emma followed the finger with her eyes. The hallway was dim. Family photos hung on the wall. For a heartbeat she thought she saw a small dip in the air, a suggestion of a shape moving along the baseboards as if something very short had been sliding itself along the floor. Then it was gone. The photograph frames were straight. The hallway was empty. She carried Lily into the living room and sat on the couch until the sun came up. Her phone buzzed with messages she could not make sense of, 3 missed calls from numbers she did not know, a text that said only, "We saw it too." No name. No number. Emma did not know who "we" was. She and Mark had always thought they were safe. Now the house felt thin, like paper. The story did not begin at the knock, or the neon text, or the dead monitor speaking. It began months before, on a warm day in June, when Emma and Mark first set foot in the small house on Maple Street. They picked the house because it felt like a promise. It was a 2-story with a small porch and a maple tree that shaded the yard in summer. The neighborhood was quiet. There were kids on bikes that left chalk rainbows on the sidewalk, and an old woman who left jars of jam on your step. Emma had worked at the town library and loved the quiet between the shelves. Mark worked nights as a nurse at the hospital. He knew how to read machines and calm frightened people. They married young and wanted a place to bring a baby someday. When Lily was born, the house filled up with new things. There were tiny clothes folded like paper birds, a bassinet that smelled like cotton, and a baby monitor that had been a gift from Mark's mother. The monitor looked harmless, a white globe with a camera eye that blinked green. It let them see the baby from the couch, from the yard, even when they stayed with friends. It was a comfort in long nights. Emma would feed Lily, bring her to the living room, and watched the little red dot on the monitor while she practiced breathing slow and steady. At first, the monitor was perfectly ordinary. It showed Lily sleeping, making tiny noises, rolling over for the first time. Emma and Mark laughed at the small things. The first tooth that poked out, the way Lily's ear curled when she slept. The monitor became a witness to private, joyful moments. But small strange things crept in. The first was something so easy to blame: static lines across the picture. Emma would watch the screen and see snow like old television when the wind blew hard. Other nights the camera shook for a second, as if someone had bumped it. At first they blamed the internet and the router. Mark changed passwords, tightened security, updated the firmware. They bought a second monitor in case the first was faulty, and put the old one in a drawer. Then there were noises. Emma would hear a faint humming while Lily slept, as if someone far away was singing under their breath. Once, the music box on the changing table began to play without being wound. Toys that had been left in a pile moved. The dog, Milo, refused to sleep in the nursery at night and would whine and press his head against the door. They laughed it off. Houses are noisy. Babies wake up. Dogs have moods. Mark checked the cameras and found nothing. He told Emma to sleep more, get rest. She tried. She read to Lily at night and watched her brush her fingers through the tiny blanket, and for a little while, the house was normal again. One night, a story broke on the local news about a couple downstate whose baby monitor had been hacked. A stranger had spoken through the speaker and laughed in the voice of a grown man. The news said the police blamed a weak password. 4 days after, parents unplugged devices and checked settings. The story made Emma and Mark nervous. They changed the password again and put the backup monitor on the shelf. Then the real strange thing happened. It was a stormy night. The sky was low and green, and thunder rolled like distant drums. Mark worked a double shift and left before midnight. Emma put Lily to bed and sat on the couch with a cup of tea that went cold. At 3 a.m., the monitor, the one from the drawer they thought to be broken, blinked to life on the changing table by itself. Its red light glowed through the dark. The speaker clicked. A voice that did not sound like a human voice said, "We tried the door. It was locked. She will be lonely." Emma's tea spilled on her lap. She ran to the nursery, where the old monitor sat like a small moon, though it had not been charged. She reached for it and the plastic was warm. She unplugged it and carried it to the kitchen. The battery compartment was empty. She set it on the counter and it was still humming with that low, wrong sound like metal rubbing metal. Mark came home and found her pale, hands shaking. They argued quietly, frightened in the way people are when the words are too big to use. The police were kind but said the same thing. Secure the network, change passwords, keep devices unplugged. They filed a report and left. Emma thought for a while that would be the end, that the house could be fortified with good sense and a little equipment. But the voice did not stop. It learned the family's habits. The monitor would speak when the house felt most safe, when the lights went out, when the baby was tucked in. It used names. It knew Lily's favorite lullaby and hummed it backwards through the speaker. Once it said, "She looks like you," and Emma felt a coldness like being named in a room full of strangers. They tried to fight back. Mark took both monitors to a shop. The technician shrugged and said the electronics looked fine. They bought a new, top-rated camera and put the old one in a plastic bin in the attic. For a few nights, nothing strange happened. Lily slept. Emma and Mark took walks and forced themselves to laugh at small things again. But the house is not a thing you fix with wires. Strange events do not always obey reason. One night, during a neighborhood power outage when every streetlight was dark, Emma woke to find the monitor from the attic lit on the changing table. It had been unplugged for weeks. The red light glowed. The lens turned toward the crib. The monitor, dead by every measurement, spoke, "She is nearly warm enough." On the porch that night someone had knocked politely, the same 3 soft knocks that matched the voice's laugh. The front mat bore a faint wet handprint that would not wash away. In the morning, the handprint would be gone from the mat, but it remained in Emma's head like a picture. After that night, the house felt smaller. Emma checked locks until her fingers ached. She stopped trusting the hum of machines and the steady breathing of the heater. She would stand at the nursery door and count Lily's breaths, a ritual to keep fear at bay. Mark slept in the living room more often, because being closer made him feel like he could do something. But the shadow that moved like a small person across the wall would not be stopped by closeness. The voice in the monitor spoke of claiming and of loneliness. It said things like, "She knows the way, and don't take her." Once, while Emma held Lily and pressed her cheek to the baby's hair, the monitor whispered, "She belongs to me," and a cold hand printed on the outside of the nursery window like fog. They tried to leave. One Sunday they packed a bag and drove 2 towns over to stay at Mark's sister's house. They thought distance would keep the house from following them. But at 3:11 a.m., while they slept on an air mattress, Emma's phone buzzed. A picture was attached. The nursery window, the baby's blanket with a faint shadow mark on it, and a caption, "We see her." No number. No name. Just the picture. Now, with the monitor lying cold and dead on the dresser and the porch light blinking like a slow, unkind eye, Emma realized they were not dealing with a machine problem. They were dealing with something that could cross from outside to inside with no help from wires. It called their child by name and left marks on windows and blankets. It came at night like a polite visitor and left its handprint on their lives. Emma pressed Lily to her chest and tried to make the pounding in her temples match the tiny rhythm of the baby's breath. The house around them made normal noises. The dog whined and settled in a safe corner. The clock ticked. It all felt fragile. Then the monitor spoke 2 words that made the blood drain from her face. "Open, please." Before she could answer, there was a new sound from above, a soft, slow scratching, like small fingers moving along the attic floor. It was patient. It was waiting. Emma wrapped her arms tighter around her child and listened as the sound circled above them, as if something just climbed onto the roof and walked a careful path. She did not know what it wanted. She only knew it would not leave until it got what it wanted, or until she learned how to stop it. The room held its breath with her. Outside, the maple tree branches whispered in a wind that had not been there a moment before. The monitor's dead light blinked once more, far away and impossible, and then went out. The house fell into a silence that felt full of waiting. Emma rocked back and forth, singing a lullaby she had learned as a child, the words small and ordinary against the enormous night. Lily's eyelids fluttered. The small handprint on the blanket did not fade. Above them, the attic scratching stopped, then started again, slow and steady, coming closer to the ceiling of the room where they slept. The chapter closed on the sound of those tiny, patient scratches, as if someone small and very sure was moving above their heads, and the last thing Emma heard before she put her face to Lily's hair was the faintest, happiest-sounding whisper from the monitor, like a promise or a threat. "Soon."